This is the Mach 3 overview series. It's going to be a four-part series where we're going to go over pretty much every single icon and menu item that's in Mach 3 just briefly. And in some of the instances, I'll be pointing you to some of my other videos that will go more in depth, but I just want you to understand the full capabilities of the entire program and know that you've got a lot of great options and a lot of different methods for doing what you want to do. So in the first series, we'll go over the first half of these menu icons across here. So I'll talk about what they do, real life applications for working on quilts, and again point you towards some of my other videos if there's a lot of depth to them like there is with the draw menu. Next week we will go over the balance of the icons, and then the third class will review the top menu icons across here and the sew icons across the bottom, as well as the right click icons or options. And then in the final class we'll go through all of these top menu items and what they can do, including some of the diagnostics and settings that you can utilize that you may not be aware of. So it'll be a four-part series, but I think we'll get you through everything you need to know about Mach 3. So today we'll start with the Align menu. There's some information on my YouTube page under one of the videos that I did previously on Echo, Align, and Wreath Arrays that you can certainly refer to if you want a little bit more information. But today we'll talk a little bit about the Align tools. So I'm going to click on it. I've got some patterns that I just placed here on my screen. And you've got a couple different options. As always, you can use the mouse or the sew head. I'm going to use the mouse at the moment, and you can align to a horizontal line, a vertical line, or a point. So you've got three different choices there. So let's just start with the horizontal line. And then down below you've got the alignment style, which is the top of the items, the bottom of the items, or the middle. So I'm going to choose the middle for this. So if I click on my screen, I can create a line that will be what the shapes will snap to. If I was using the sew head, I could certainly match it to the sew head crosshairs, but we'll go ahead and use the mouse and I'll just click a line anywhere. So, and I'll leave it at the center. I'll go ahead and say accept on my line placement. And now when I bring the patterns anywhere close to that line, they're going to snap to it like they're magnetic. And so I can get everything centered to the center point, or conversely, if I wanted to just do the top, it would align the top. So there's some things in design work or maybe the drawing functions that you might want to use some of these tools with. On quilts, you never really have straight lines on a quilt, but this can kind of get you started to where you want to be. So certainly worth exploring and experimenting with this tool. As always, you have the help menu here that talks you through the different options. Let's go ahead and choose point. So I can click on my screen and create this point and then align any part of the pattern to it. So I'll go ahead and leave it at the top. So if I accept the point like that, now it will snap the patterns to that same point. So you may find that useful for some applications, especially if you're using a center point. So let's go ahead and cancel. Definitely experiment with some of these. We'll be going over more of these different options with the positioning tool in an upcoming video next week that also has different ways that you can align to areas on your quilt. So explore that menu and let us know if you've got some unique options for real life quilts using it, and I might try to include it in the video or a future video. I've done a super in-depth Autofit video that I would invite you to watch, but I'll just briefly discuss what Autofit is on the tool here. So if I click on it, I can do it from the mouse or the sew head. So if I had a block, right now I have a quilt that has a blazing star on it, and it's got diamonds that go around in different colors, and I can use this tool to place these different shapes. And so if I want to just sort of demonstrate that to you, I'm going to leave it on mouse. I'm actually going to select this first, go to Autofit, and you've got a couple choices here. You can set a height for it if all your pieces are really consistent. You can maintain ratio. Let's set a height. So let's do that so you can see how that works. So now if I say begin Autofit, the pattern will disappear. And if I click points, it's always going to keep that same height. But I can go narrower or wider. It just maintains that height distance. And so alternately, let's go back and choose that, and if you lock it, then when you click on your different points, it's going to keep the design in the original height that you started with when you pulled the design into Autofit. So let's go. Maintain ratio is going to make it larger or smaller depending on the distance between my clicks. So that's not always optimal if you're trying to work with uniform piecing on it, but it's certainly worth a try if you've got flying geese or something that sort of vary across a quilt. So take a look at that other video. It goes into a lot more depth, but that's basically Autofit in a nutshell. Now when you are clicking, if you double click in the same spot, it will flip the design up. Let me choose this pattern, and I think you can see that better. So I can click 2 and then click a third point, but flip it so there's 3 here, 3 down here, and then alternate just by double clicking. So that can be very useful when you're working on things, or you can go ahead and select alternative flip and it does that automatically. So super powerful part of the program, also referred to as point to point. The patterns have to start on the left and end on the right on the same horizontal line, or you'll get a message that they cannot be used for Autofit. But we did a lot of these in the drawing videos that I created, and you can just create some really fun shapes for repetitive elements on your quilt. So give it a try. Now let's talk about the boundary tool. I want to remind you that you always have a help menu right here that goes through the different sections of this tool. So whether you're using the mouse or the sew head or the right click menu, you can pull up different parts of this boundary. And so just a quick overview, we can do it from the mouse, we can do it from the sew head. If you're working on an actual quilt and you want to click on the corners of a block, you can morph to fit, maintain ratio, and then group the pattern with the boundary. And you can adjust the margin of how far you want it inside the edges of the block. So let's go ahead and begin this. So let's go begin, and I forgot that it defaults to begin. So you could click, you only can click 4 points around the block, but let's say your block is not very square. So when you click the 4th point, it automatically closes the first and the last, and I can say done. And now when I bring in a pattern, this is a block pattern, it's going to automatically skew it to fit those 4 points. So can be useful in some instances. In others, it might not give you enough flexibility to do some editing. So we'll talk about some other options to kind of get to the same point in morph when we talk about that next week. But certainly worth a try. And I think as long as you haven't hit accept, you can change anything. Like I could have changed this to a different measurement. Let's see if it'll adjust it. It won't adjust it on the one I previously did, but let's go ahead and begin another one. And you can see that that just gives you a little bit more margin. You can see the gray area is the 0.5. So when I pull in the pattern, it actually is going to leave more of an area between my quilt block and the outer edges of the block. If you're doing a lot of these boundaries and across the quilt, it's kind of handy here that you can access a particular one. So this was obviously the first one that I created. I could go ahead and delete it and just take them out in order without having to really fuss around with them. Last week we did a real in-depth dive into the Crosshatch tool, so I invite you to watch that video. I won't talk about it too much today other than just to say it's a pretty slick option that we have. How it computes crosshatch, I'll just show you briefly that you can click as many times as you need around a block if it's not perfectly square, and it's going to place the crosshatch. So Super fun, great option to do behind appliques and over embroidery. So take a look at that video and I'm sure you'll learn some pointers and definitely experiment with the tool. I've done 3 different videos with the draw menu, which is just an awesome set of tools. And so we go really in depth in those 3. Plus there's another one where I actually teach you how to create continuous text that doesn't have any tie-offs. And so I'd invite you to take a look at that series of 4 in the drawing tool and learn how powerful this is, where you can literally create anything for your own use with your patterns or break a pattern apart and use components of it. So definitely check that out and enjoy the different options that they've given us in this really great tool in Mach 3. Let's explore the join tool. So this is a way that you can combine existing patterns, kind of create some more of your own, alter existing patterns. So let's go over some of that. I've got 2 patterns here that came from your pattern library. And one thing that you'll want to consider is that the second pattern that you're going to select to join into the first one really should start and stop on the same spot. So that's going to be where the 2 patterns combine. And so I've brought in this edge-to-edge pattern in this star. And before we get started, I'm going to copy the star and go ahead and bring it up here, and then I'm going to mirror it so I can use that star in this other pattern. So I'll get them down here kind of close. So in order to use the join tool, you're going to select join, and the first pattern will be your edge to edge in this situation. So I'll select that and say accept, and then I'll select one of the stars, the second pattern, and say accept, and it turns orange. And wherever I click on the first pattern now is going to be where that is going to join. So I'll click right here and say accept. And then we'll do the same thing. Select the first pattern, accept, the second pattern, accept, and I'll click down here and go ahead and say accept to let those 2 join. So you've created a new pattern. You could size them a little more carefully or do whatever you want. But let's go ahead and select that and try it as an edge to edge. It will qualify because we did not alter the start in the end at all. So let's leave it at trim and say generate. And then I can reduce my row gap, and you've got a new little star and stripe pattern. So it can be kind of fun. Let's try it with another. You can certainly save the pattern too if you like it, so you can use it on a future quilt. Last week's Zoom meeting, Amy Martin talked about how she'll take existing patterns and change elements of it. So let's do that next. In the draw menu, I created this little moon where the start and stop are at the same point. And let's swap out one of these hearts in this pattern by Maureen Foster. This pattern is on my website, and it's a good one to work with these different elements with. So let's see, it's called Star Swirls by Maureen Foster. So I'll select that. And what Amy was explaining is that you can go into the draw menu and remove these points. You don't want to split the pattern into 2 separate pieces, but she actually goes in and deletes the points using the draw menu. So the pattern stays as a continuous line. It doesn't break it in half. So we'll just go through. I could have simplified those vertices, but we'll just get rid of them. And so now I can go back to transform, bring in my moon pattern, and let's go ahead and flip it or mirror it. So the start and stop are down here. Maybe I rotate it a little bit using this rotation handle, and I must have that locked. So I'll unlock that. Bring it in here, size it the way I want to. So again, we'll go back into the join menu, choose the first part of the pattern, go to join, say accept. The second part of the pattern, say accept, and then click where I want them to join. Let's go ahead and say there. So it'll take the moon over, and if I say accept, this is now a pattern that I could export or save and use. So let's go ahead and try that and repeat just for fun. So we'll generate. And now I've got a star and moon pattern that would be really cute on a kid's quilt. So you've got lots of possibilities with your pattern library that you have, the patterns you own or the ones that came free with your machine, to make some alterations to really make those patterns uniquely your own. Let's experiment one more time with that tool. I'm going to go into the draw menu. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to set my snap to grid on and go to the draw menu, and I'm going to do an arc. So I'll click here, say begin, click here, and then the peak, and I'll right click to get out of that tool. So then I'll go ahead and go back to my transform and bring my star up. Let me take my snap to grid off so I'm not fighting that. So let's try to put that there. Maybe make this a little bit bigger and see if we can get these to join up. So I'll go back to the join menu, click on the arc first, say accept, the star next, accept, and then tell it where I want it. So let's see if I can advance it a little bit on that point. And say accept. So let's see how that would stitch out. So it would sew as one continuous shape. So it may be a way just to kind of combine existing patterns and get new patterns. So let's let that stitch, and I'm actually going to now get out, because I snapped the start and end to the same horizontal line. I can use this as a pattern. So let me go back to transform and resize it a little bit, and let's go to the edge to edge icon, and let's do trim, and let's offset the rows by 50% and say generate and see what we get. So that's actually kind of fun. So there's a new pattern for you. Go ahead and try to recreate that so you can better understand the tool. So that's the first half of your menu icons, and next week we'll go over the second half. I'd love some feedback from you guys during the week, and if you have any additional questions, make sure you let me know.